On today's Ask Zach, we're going to take a look at this cool Roadworn maple cap neck Tele that Fender just introduced. I'm going to talk about maple cap neck guitars, and I'm going to talk about how the Roadworn series has been my favorite kind of bang for your buck, kind of the sweet spot of Fender guitars for the last 16 years. Well, hello friends, and welcome to Ask Zach. Today we are going to take a look at Fender's Roadworn series. It's been around for about 16 years. We're going to talk about how I've been recommending those guitars to people emailing me and messaging me through social media and stuff for the years and years and years. I'm going to talk about maple cap necks, which I'm a big fan of them. I own a couple vintage ones. And then we're going to talk about this new limited edition Roadworn that Fender just came out with that they surprised me with this because I had actually reached out to them wanting to get a Roadworn guitar to do a video about because I love them so much. And then they said, well, we've got a maple cap neck one. Do you want one of those? And I said, yes, please. So that's what we're doing today. Quick pause for the cause. I need to thank my Patreon members. I need to thank everyone that's, given a thumbs up on a video, that's commented, that said something nice, that's put some money in the tip jar or super thanks or bought a t-shirt. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. All right, so let's dive in. So probably one of the most commonly asked questions I get is which Telecaster should I buy? And, sometimes people give me a budget and it might be that they're looking, and I say, well, maybe you get a classic vibe or something like that. Or maybe maybe it's like, let's look at these custom shop guitars, or maybe it's a boutique builder. Maybe it's vintage. I've, helped people, vet, and kind of look at all the parts and all the gut shots on vintage instruments that they're buying. So I do that quite often too. But my favorite question is, what's your favorite, kind of bang for your buck, Telecaster? And to me, the number one answer, and it has been for the last 16 years, is Fender's Roadworn series. I think it's a fantastic line. It always has been. I was, in fact, invited to the sneak peek back in 2008, Fender Nashville. Luckily, they invited me because I was writing for Vintage Guitar Magazine at the time, and I got to see the Roadworns when they first came out, and I was like, these are just stinking amazing. These are ridiculous. And ever since then, that's what I recommend. And just a couple weeks ago, I reached out to Fender, and I said, look, one of the biggest questions I get is about, a great, kind of bang for your buck Telecaster. And I said, it's the Roadworn series. And I said, I was thinking about either getting a Brad Paisley, one, or the Jason Isbell, because those are kind of my two favorites of the current run of Roadworns. And they said, well, we could send one of those, but you might be interested in this other one. And immediately I was not interested because I'd already kind of fixated on the fact that I wanted to either get an Isbell or a Paisley one. And I actually didn't open up the PDF that they sent me because they said, hey, take a look at the PDF. And so it took me a couple hours before finally I just said, because I was just I was disenchanted because I was already thinking it's going to be something stupid. And it wasn't. It wasn't stupid at all. It was a maple cap neck 60s Roadworn Tele, which, those are some of my favorite vintage guitars, the original maple cap necks. So my first vintage guitar, and I still own it to this day, it's really special to me, is this 67 maple cap neck Tele. And, as you can see, no skunk stripe. So that, for those of you that don't know, I'll give you the quick and dirty. In 1959, Fender went from making one-piece maple necks to making guitars that had a maple neck with a separate rosewood fretboard. And so when people wanted a maple board after that, it couldn't be a one-piece neck like in the 50s. What they did was they made a separate maple board for it and put it on just like they would a rosewood one. And so these guitars were made mostly from like 63 to 1968, early 69. And before Fender finally went back to the old style of construction of a one-piece maple neck. Well, the thing about these guitars, maple cap necks have a different sound than a one-piece maple neck. And it has to do with, like in last week's episode where I was talking about rosewood fretboards, well, anytime you have two pieces of wood, it creates greater stiffness or rigidity. And so that affects the way the neck resonates. It affects the way the string responds to it. So they have a unique, really cool sound that I love. And so as soon as I saw that Fender had, kind of taken up the gauntlet, and because before this, the only way you could get a maple cap neck was usually a custom shop guitar, like the new Brad Paisley, Lost Paisley guitar that I was involved with, that has a maple cap neck. Or you had like the Brent Mason model that is made in the regular U.S. factory, but it's fair, it's a little higher, because it's got Seymour Duncan pickups and it's got a Glaser B-bender on it and all that jazz. It's got a lot of hot rodding on there. And so I was just really excited when Fender made an affordable maple cap neck, because I think it's a really important era of vintage Fender guitars that really hadn't been covered. How many maple cap neck Teles have you seen in the last, being made by Fender in the last, 20 years or more? So I think it was long overdue, and I think they did a really great job. If you look at them, of course, you can see that, they certainly made it look like, they are, this is the much older brother, I should say. So, yeah. So with the maple cap neck Teles, they all had staggered pole bridge pickups and steel saddles, which is what this has. And I really like the touches that they did. This has the late 60s style, grooved saddles. It just has two grooves in it instead of the ones that were in the earlier 60s that are grooved. No, they're almost threaded. They're threaded saddles, and I don't like those because it's almost like they're serrated and they cut up your hand. So I like this. I like the patent number bridge because Fender is written, horizontally instead of at a 45-degree angle along with the angle of the pickup. Yeah. And then you just have, this cool 8-hole single ply pick guard, which would have been more like a 63 or something like that. But that's why this is just called a 60s Roadworn Tele. But it's really, really cool. And so let's hear a little bit of it. So here's the good old neck pickup. Here's the both pickups. It's got good chunk to it. And of course you can do your R&B kind of thing. So it'll do all that 60s R&B thing, which was done a lot with maple cap neck Teles. You have to remember that like Cornell Dupree and Bobby Womack and Reggie Young, we're all using maple cap neck Teles, in the mid to late 60s. And, old Reggie didn't start playing that 69 Tele custom until 70 or so. But yeah, that was, really, really common. Then of course you had the country guys that were using maple cap necks. So you had Don Rich and Buck Owens playing those silver sparkle Teles, which were maple cap necks. And you even had Luther Perkins that was playing a maple cap neck Esquire that was sunburst, and he played it through a lot of the 60s until he passed away in 68. And and even like Merle Haggard and Roy Nichols played maple cap neck Teles in the very mid 60s. Robbie Robertson played a maple cap neck Tele. It was black originally and owned by Bob Dylan, and then he ended up using that with the band quite a bit. Of course, he stripped it and put a humbucker in the neck, and it sold at auction a number of years ago. And the Robbie Robertson guitar, like this one, like what Fender did, I really like what they did. It's a maple cap neck, and it has the spaghetti logo, which that was only done from like 62, 63 through 65. And so it's a really cool look and vibe. And of course, if you get more modern, then you're looking at guys like Brad Paisley, who used a maple cap neck, has used one for his entire career. Both his pink Paisley and his blue Paisley, or lost Paisley. And then Brent Mason, who's played on everything from Alan Jackson to Zach Top and everything in between, has used a 67 maple cap neck Tele. So these things have their own sound. And then, we haven't made it to the bridge pickup yet. So here's the old bridge pickup. You can see it's got plenty of twang and like assertiveness, and of course, if you want to back off on some of that assertive trebleness, you can always roll the tone control down a little bit. I've got it all the way up, but really great guitar. It's got nice grain on it. It's already got a little bit of cracking here, on the back here, so it looks really nice, and it's wearing in nicely. So I'm very glad that Fender has finally made an affordable maple cap neck guitar, because I just think those vintage guitars were really significant, and it's been so rare to be able to find a recreation of that really significant model that Fender made in the 60s. Also, I just think, no matter what, if you're looking for a great bang for your buck guitar, I highly recommend the Roadworn series. You can find them used, you can find them new. Again, they've been around for 16 plus years, and they're just great instruments. And I would heartily recommend this limited edition 60s Roadworn. So, well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.